Shout out to Tokyo Treat and Sakur for sponsoring this video. Hello everyone, in this week's video I'm critiquing my viewers' art. It's been a few months since the last time I did this, and many of you have been wanting me to do it again, so here we are. You all submit art for me to give feedback on, and I try my best to give advice that will hopefully be helpful. So yeah, let's jump into it. I want to start by saying in all of your pictures, I love your use of lighting and color. I also feel like you do a really nice job defining shapes and making them look three-dimensional. My critique for your work is that in all the drawings you submitted, the rendering for the eyes feels a bit flat or dull compared to the rest of the art. It feels like the rendering doesn't quite match. So real quick, I'm going to paint over the eyes and shade them in. Obviously, you don't have to shade them like this. I'm kind of just using my eye shading style. I think what I would like to see you do is add shading to the eyes and irises like you do with the rest of your art. Because they aren't getting as much shading as everything else, it makes them feel a bit out of place. And so adding more shading will help them feel more connected to everything else. For example, I added a low opacity pink to the eye so that it also has some pink like a lot of the other parts of the picture. Another thing I want to note on is how you draw noses. I encourage you to maybe do some nose studies, especially for the area of the bridge of the nose. In your pieces, the bridge of the nose keeps feeling a bit off to me. I do draw in a very anime-inspired style, so I'm definitely not an expert on rendering more realistic noses. However, I did try to tweak the nose area a bit to hopefully help you get an idea of what I mean. So yeah, your work is super cool, and I hope this advice helps you a little bit. For this, I don't have much to critique, but I want to comment on your improvement. The one on the left is the old picture, and the one on the right is the new picture. The first thing I want to note on is your improvement with the flow of the body. In the first picture, it's kind of stiff. However, in the second picture, we get the nice movement of the shoulders and also the curve of the torso. This makes things more interesting to look at and helps the pose feel livelier. Another thing I want to praise is your color choices. In the new picture, the colors feel a lot more fun, especially since you used yellow for the highlights instead of white like in the old picture. So yeah, very good improvement. I do have two little tips. The first is that the mouth feels a bit low. This can be a stylization thing, but I feel like the proportions would feel more in proportion if his mouth was moved up a bit. Secondly, the palm of the hand is feeling a bit thin, and like the thumb wouldn't quite be connecting. So I'm going to widen that area a little bit. They're very small changes, but I hope they help. Your improvement definitely shows. Good work. This picture is so cute. I love the colors. I have two things I want to touch on. The first is that the eye feels like it's too far to the right. It's getting a bit too close to the ear area, so I'm going to move it over a bit. Also, since I moved it over, the eyebrow felt like it needed to extend longer to match, so I did that as well. Secondly, I noticed that you have this shadow on the right side of the shoulder, and it extends pretty far out. We also get a shadow on the bent portion of the hand. However, the right side of her shoulder, where the sweater is, has no shading. And for other people's work as well, I was seeing this pretty often. They will shade parts of the picture as if they're not one form. They'll treat things like the skin and the clothing like they're different, even if they're kind of a part of the same form. Like in this case, if you're applying shading to the right side of the shoulder, that shading should extend down onto the sweater as well. They are still part of the same form, being the arm. So yeah, I just extend the shadow down and add a bit of shadow to that arm. I hope that info helps a little bit, and your picture is super cute. Both these pictures are very lovely, and they do have something in common, and it's the finishing touches or effects that have been added to them. I feel like in both cases, the effects are taking away from the picture instead of enhancing it. For this one, the noise feels a bit too busy and distracting. I feel like it would be better if the noise's opacity was turned down a bit. I usually do something around 20% opacity. It makes it so the noise is still seeable if you look for it, and it does give it a textured feeling, but it's not overpowering. For this picture, I can tell you added chromatic abrasion, and chromatic abrasion can be a really cool effect. If you don't know what it is, basically it takes the different color channels and kind of slightly moves them around, and it gives a really interesting look to the picture. But it can also make pictures be a little hard to look at, especially if the chromatic abrasion is really strong. And it's kind of doing that for me in this case. I feel like I want to look at all the details you drew, but because of the effect, I'm having a hard time focusing on the picture and its details. So yeah, finishing touches and effects can really help bring a piece together, but they can also bring a piece down if you aren't careful. So choose wisely, and always save backups before adding extra effects. That's really helpful as well. I love the interaction between the two characters in this picture. It's very cute. And the thing I want to talk about here is the background. Backgrounds can be tricky and intimidating to draw, so props to you for giving it a go. The thing that is sticking out to me about the background is that it's not in the same perspective as the characters, and the people in the background seem to be weirdly tiny. Now, I'm not sure what the story is here. Maybe these characters are in a town filled with tiny people, but I'm going to assume that's not the case. So to possibly help you out, I'm going to show you how I figure out how tall to make characters when they are in the distance of a background. I start by establishing the horizon line. This is the eye level of the viewer. Okay, so now we need a character. I'll draw one in real quick. Say hello, character.
Hello.
Okay, so let's say I wanted to add a second character that is standing around right here in the background. How should I figure out how tall to make that character? Well, first let's pick where our vanishing point is. I'm going to make it be here. Now I just draw lines coming off the top and bottom of my character and make them go towards that vanishing point. And now I can find how tall the character is in the distance. They fit right in between these lines. This works if my second character is the same height as my first character, but what if my characters are different heights? Well, I do the same thing. Maybe my second character goes up to about the shoulder of my first character, so I just need to draw a line going off the character's shoulder instead. This shows me how the second character's height will change depending on where I place them. So yeah, that's how I figure out how tall to make characters in backgrounds. Anyways, back to the picture. I also mentioned that the background wasn't in the same perspective as the characters, and you might be thinking, how do you know it's in the wrong perspective? And I'll show you. If I take a perspective ruler and line it up with the lines on the ground, we can see the horizon line gets placed all the way up here. However, this doesn't fit with the characters. By looking at the characters, I feel like the horizon line, or our eye level, is about here. I say this because it seems like we're looking pretty straight on at the girl, but just a bit below the boy. Notice how his facial features are pointing towards the horizon line. It's very important to keep the horizon line of your characters and the background the same. That's how you make them all feel cohesive. But it can be very tricky when you're starting out, and it does take practice. Overall, it's a very cute picture, and keep up the good work. Your coloring style is very pretty. I like your use of brush strokes to help define the shapes of forms, and the character is very cute. That being said, I do feel like her facial proportions could use a bit of tweaking. Her nose feels a bit too close to her eyes. If you were to get an x-ray done of her skull, it would probably be very interesting looking. I'm going to simply move the eyes up a tish and the nose down a bit. It's nothing huge or major, but I hope it helps a little. For this picture, the artist requested I help them out with the seaweed. They feel like it doesn't fit in with the rest of their picture. I'm going to start by painting over the picture to get rid of the seaweed. Sorry, this paint over is kind of messy. I wasn't trying to make things super clean, just trying to get rid of the seaweed so I can draw in my own. So I feel like the reason the seaweed feels out of place is because of how light in color it is. A lot of times if you have items more in the foreground, you want to make them much lighter or much darker than the midground elements. In this case, I feel like they should be darker since they are further away from the light in the background. Oh, and I'm using a seaweed brush I had to make things go quicker. Also, for the flow of the seaweed, I try to have them all point towards the character to help direct our eyes to her. If I were to have the seaweed pointing away from the character, that can draw the viewer's eye to somewhere else. And I don't want to do that, so I try to make it all kind of point towards her. Next up, the seaweed fit in. I lock their transparency and lightly apply lighter blues towards the top and darker colors towards the bottom to make them fit in with the lighting and help give them depth. Then to make it so that they don't draw away focus from the character and to make it feel like it's closer to us, I blur the seaweed. Lastly, to add a bit more depth, I add a dark blue with a soft brush to the edges. And I also add some small seaweed to the background. I make those ones kind of faded so they don't attract too much attention but still add to the picture overall. So yeah, here are the before and after. I hope this information was helpful and that this seaweed hopefully fits in a little bit more. Thank you to Tokyo Treat and Sakur for sponsoring this video. Tokyo Treat and Sakur want to share Japanese culture and invite everyone to experience Japan from the comfort of their own homes through their snack boxes. Tokyo Treat and Sakur are both monthly Japanese snack subscription boxes, but both offer their own experiences. First, we have Tokyo Treat with the theme of Osaka Snack Station. You'll get up to 20 of the latest, most exclusive, limited edition, and seasonal flavored Japanese snacks that are only available in Japan for a limited time. Experience the colorful sights and mouth-watering flavors of Japan's culinary capital Osaka with tonkatsu-style vegetarian ramen, chocolate orange Kit Kat, Kobe melon soda, it's super yummy, and so much more. You can learn all about the snacks you receive as well as allergen information in this really handy booklet. The booklet also contains a ton of really cool facts about Japanese culture. Two of my personal favorite snacks from this box are the chocolate bread bites and Osaka's Delaware grape gummies. These retro bread snacks are bite-sized, fluffy, and filled with smooth chocolate cream. They're super yummy. Delaware grapes were brought to Osaka around 150 years ago and have been a local favorite ever since. These gummies are super tasty. Next we have Sakur. If you're looking for an authentic Japanese snack subscription box, this one is for you. Each box comes with 20 traditional and authentic artisan Japanese snacks, including Japanese teas and one special Japanese tableware. Sakur is partnering with local Japanese snack makers to continue to share Japanese culture and traditions that have been passed down for over 100 years. This box's theme is mochi and fruit marvels. Experience artisan Japanese treats like Ichigo mochi maju, lemon vinegar arare, genmaicha with green tea, and so much more. This month's kitchenware is a chrysanthemum dish. Its design is so beautiful and charming. Two of my favorite snacks from this box are the lemon pie and momo kibi dango. Handcrafted with Hokkaido wheat and infused with tangy lemon pulp, this fresh and fragrant pie is a lovely treat. Kibi dango is a traditional Japanese confectionery. It is so soft and chewy. The light flavor of white peaches is so delicious. You can use my code DRAWMANGA to get $5 off your first box. These boxes make a perfect gift for a loved one or are a great special treat for yourself. Make sure to sign up soon if you want to get the boxes I featured in this video. Thank you so much again to Tokyo Treat and Sakur for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to drawing. For this picture, the artist said the character was looking at the moon, but the thing is that the moon is technically behind the character, and the character would be backlit from the moon and they wouldn't really be looking at it with the way it's placed in the picture. So in order for this to make sense, we would need to make the moon be out of frame. This is a bit of a bummer because now it's hard for us, the viewer, to totally know what she is looking at or what's causing this light. But with how the picture was originally, when I just looked at the picture without reading the description, I thought she was looking up at the stars and not the moon since the moon is behind her. But yeah, that's my small critique. The art is super cute and I love your use of warm lighting. It's very pretty. This picture has a great use of values and shading. It's very pretty. The thing I want to focus on is the face. There's something about the face that almost doesn't seem human, and I think it's because the features need to be defined a bit more. Also, I noticed that her mouth is sitting at a different angle than the eyes, so I decided to adjust the mouth and make it closer to the same angle. The facial feature I'm going to define more is the nose. I feel like adding more emphasis to the nose will help her face look more human-like. Since it does seem like you don't like to super define the nose, I try to keep the definition pretty light and not over define it. I tend to draw my noses a bit more prominent, so here I'm stylizing it a bit more. I felt like the eyebrow also needed to be more visible, so I added it in with some colors that match the hair. Oh, it also seems like I decided to tweak the nose a bit more. I was kind of just selecting colors from the face and painting over the face. And I also added a bit of shading to the eye to make it blend in with the rest of the shading around it. So here is the before and after. By defining the nose and eyebrow a bit more, it helps give the face a bit more form. So I hope that helps. The artist requested help with anatomy, and overall it feels pretty good. But I do feel like the shoulder area needs some help. So it feels like we should be able to see the shoulder on the left side. You drew it in a way that suggests it's behind the torso, but it should be in line with the other shoulder. So I extended out the shoulder and used the liquify tool to adjust the shape a little bit. The lines for the armpit area on the right side felt like it extended a bit too high into the shoulder area, so I paint over to make it extend less. Also, this part of the chest here doesn't seem to be in the right place. It feels like it's too much on the side of the chest and should be more on the front a bit. I also felt like it needed to be a bit lower, so I moved it down a bit. Lastly, the back doesn't seem to be connecting between the upper and lower portion, so I move out the lower part of the body a bit to make this all line up. Here are the before and after. Overall, really nice work on the picture, and I hope this helps you a bit. So for this next batch of pictures, I had an interesting experience, and this won't be so much a critique, but I do have things I want to say, so yeah. Anyways, I opened an email and it read, "Hi, here are some of my drawings. Feel free to critique it. Love your videos. You can critique anyone you want. Also, thank you. I'm happy you like my videos. I started to look at all the art and saw this picture and thought, wow, it's really pretty. But then I also saw this picture and this picture. And I noticed that the art style felt very different for this picture specifically. Its style didn't match the other two. So I looked closer at these two and realized that they're most likely created with AI. And you might be thinking, wait, Becca, how can you be so sure they were made with AI? And we do have to be very careful when assuming artists are using AI. I've seen a lot of artists being wrongly accused of using AI when they haven't been. But I'll show you the things I noticed that makes me think this art is made by AI. For this first picture, there isn't a ton that feels weird about it, but I find it odd that the mouth is not shaded in. If an artist of this level was making a drawing, I feel like they would fill in the mouth with shading. The next thing I noticed is this hair strand or shadow. It just doesn't make sense. It is both shadow and a hair strand at the same time. This second picture felt like more was off with it. First, the eyeshadow here is not making sense. Why is it not connecting to the rest of the eyeshadow? And why does it get all wiggly? Secondly, the lower lashes feel weird. Some of them are connecting and making odd shapes. Third, the mouth feels odd in shape and the lips don't totally make sense with how they are going with the teeth. And the inside part of the mouth kind of goes into the lower lip. Fourth, the hair isn't making much sense. It's kind of weirdly wrapping around the head and the shapes blend into the shading. Fifth, I should be able to see the second choker through the hair. And number 6, why is there a random thing of bright light here? Technically, it should just be more of the character's head. And this bright light isn't anywhere else in the picture and it just feels really off. And lastly, the reason I'm pretty sure this is AI is because I found the original picture on the artist's Instagram page. And the artist doesn't really draw in this style at all. Their style is very different. And I want to say, I'm not pointing all this out to be like, bad, you used AI. I'm not trying to do that. I've used AI in one of my videos to inspire some art pieces and it was a ton of fun. I am more talking about this because I want to encourage you to keep drawing and making art that is truly yours, not made or enhanced by some computer program. I saw your post where you show your progress and your progress is so awesome. The new version has a lot of shape to the face and it feels really dynamic. Your understanding of facial anatomy has really improved and that's super awesome. Sure, the pieces the AI made look nice, but if you look at them long enough you can tell things feel off. Plus, nothing will ever compare to art that is personally made by you. Also, your drawing of Peach is super cute. I love Princess Peach. So yeah, hopefully this info will help some of you possibly spot AI art. Remember to always be careful before saying an artist is using AI. It really stinks when you're an artist being wrongly accused of using it. And remember that art that is personally made by you will always mean more than something a computer program spit out. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox now. Let's keep critiquing. For this picture, the artist requested help with the rendering, and overall it feels really nice, but I do feel like it's lacking in the highlight department. You have this really bright glittery background, and in comparison, it's making the highlights on the character seem a bit dull. So I'm going to go around and add some bright highlights and also go over some of your highlights to make them brighter so they pop more. You do have to be careful with highlights. Sometimes people can make them be too bright and they get blown out. And then they kind of take away from the picture, but when done carefully, they can really help a picture pop. So yeah, really nice picture and the rendering does feel nice. It just needed some extra highlights to make it pop. The artist wanted tips on how to make the background feel more interesting, and the thing is that it's not so much the background, like it kind of is, but it's mostly the composition that needs work. The right side of the picture feels like it has all of the interesting elements, and all of this space feels really unneeded. So I would crop the picture and also move the placement of the moon. I was getting tired at this point, so I apologize I don't fully edit to make this work and stuff. But yeah, I would crop it and move the moon. You would need to change the lighting to make it work on the character. But yeah, the flow of a composition can really affect how interesting it feels. And I hope that helps. When I opened the email with the submission, I felt a weird sense of deja vu and like I had seen the art style before. And while I figured it out, I had colored this artist's picture before in one of my videos. And something I wanted to give feedback on was the nose and mouth placement. I noticed in your art you have a tendency to place the nose really close to the eyes and the mouth kind of low. I love the way you draw the features, they just need to be moved around a bit. I did also resize the mouth to be a bit larger. It felt a bit too small. Overall, I love your style. It's really adorable and the color choices are very pleasant. I love how you rendered the water hat. So yeah, I hope this info was a bit helpful and keep up the good work. So that is all the advice I have for this video. There were so many submissions and I'm sorry I can't go through all of them, but I hope the ones I went through today helped the artists and those of you who are watching. Thank you so much to everyone that submitted their art. And thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, consider checking out the other videos in this series. That's all for this video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next week in my next video. Bye!